Hi there, this is Stephen. Just before I start tonight, I like to tell people these days that I'm a real human being. This is my work and my art, and my voice is completely human, and a lot of love and patience and time and care goes into creating these stories. And with that, hello my friend. Welcome to your sleep story. My name is Stephen Dalton. I'm an Irish storyteller, and it's my great privilege to be the voice that you listen to as you go to sleep tonight. Tonight's story is about a whale called Old Moonback. Did you know that when whales go to sleep, only half of them sleeps? Well, this whale has been looking after ships on the ocean for many years and brings a great calm with him. And maybe, after 200 years, it's time for Old Moonback to fully fall asleep. Keep listening to find out if he does. But first, let's do the relaxation session, which will take a few minutes before tonight's sleep story. I'm going to count down from 10 to 1, and as I do, allow yourself to let go more and more. 10. Feel the support of the bed beneath you, or the floor, or whatever you lie upon tonight. And beneath all of that, feel the support of the earth, our home, our constant support. And as you become aware of that deep grounding, calming support, see if you can let go a little more now. Just ease into this moment a little more now. 9. You are safe. Tonight, allow my voice to be a friend, to be an anchor of safety. Know this: my voice will never take you to anywhere unsafe. It will only ever take you to safe places, places of coziness and comfort, places where stories are told with a spirit of kindness and human understanding. And allow that fact to enable you to just be here and listen and move closer and closer to sleep. 8. Become aware of your body now. Feel into your body. Where are you holding tension? Where do you perhaps feel pain? Maybe it's in your feet. maybe in your lower legs, your thighs, your hips, your belly, your chest, your back, maybe your neck or shoulders, your arms, your hands, or maybe you're like me and you hold tension in your face, or in the top of your head. Wherever you're holding tension, wherever you're feeling pain, if you are, see if becoming aware of it can help ease it a little. Seven. The day is done. Whatever has been, has been. Whatever will be, will be. Whatever thoughts you might be having about the future or the past, know this: neither of those places exist. All that you have is now, is this moment. So choose to be kind to yourself in this moment, and begin to let go. If a thought arrives, don't fight it. Welcome it. It is a part of being human. See it for what it is, a thought. And then don't follow it. Let it float away, like leaves floating away on a moonlit river, or clouds passing by through a starlit sky. Six. Peace lives within you. I promise you it does. It is always there. It is always just waiting to be found, waiting to be felt. So see if you can find that peace tonight. Ask yourself, where does it live within me? Sometimes I think I find it in my chest, sometimes in my head, when you find it, it can have an immediate effect on your whole body. Sometimes it can be found through a simple, deep breath. Let's take one now together. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Maybe you found your peace, or maybe you're on the way to. Don't force it. It will come, if it hasn't already. Five. This is your moment. This is your time. Allow that fact to enable you to let go completely. You have nowhere to be, nowhere to go. Allow yourself to indulge in this moment. 4. Perhaps allow a little gratitude now. Gratitude for the simple things, for the ones who love you and who you love, for the roof over your head tonight, for the breath in your body, for the ability to lie here tonight and listen to a sleep story. 3. Begin to engage with your imagination now. Begin to see the ocean on a calm night. The water hardly moves. The moon hangs low below it. And there is a wooden ship, and next to it, a great, friendly, gentle whale, a sleepy whale that you are soon to hear about. 2. Checking in with your body one more time now. Your body has worked hard for you today. It's time to give it rest. And 1. Completely letting go now, as I tell you tonight's sleep story. If you have ever wondered what the ocean does at night, I can tell you, because I happen to know. It goes to sleep. Not all at once, of course. An ocean is far too large to fall asleep all at once, the way you or I might. It does it the way a very old house does it, room by room, corner by corner. The little bays nod off first, usually just after supper. Their small boats tucked against their moorings like children tucked against pillows. Then the shallows go, with all their swaying weeds, and then the long green miles where the fish hang perfectly still in the dark water, like ornaments nobody has put away. And last of all, very late, the deep middle of the ocean goes to sleep, the part that is miles from anywhere, where the water is so deep and so old, it has forgotten the names of most of the ships that have ever crossed it. The waves do keep going all night, I should say, but they stop meaning anything by it. A daytime wave is going somewhere. A nighttime wave is just turning over in bed. And the sound changes too. You would have to be very far out to hear it, farther than most people ever go. But at night, the whole enormous ocean makes one long, slow, endless sound. The same sound in the north as in the south. And if you listen to it properly, and tonight you and I are going to listen to it properly, it is unmistakably a lullaby. It has no words. It has never needed any. But if it did have words, they would be the 3 soft words that every sea has said to every shore since the very beginning, over and over, all night long. There, there, there. Now, in the middle of all this sleeping water, on the particular night I want to tell you about, there was a moon. It was an enormous moon, round and gold and low, the sort of moon that seems to have come down especially to have a closer look at something. And it hung above one particular patch of ocean, very far from land, where 2 remarkable things were floating side by side in the dark. One of them was a little wooden ship, and the other one was the sleepiest whale in the world. Every ocean has its whales, and every whale is somebody. But the whale in this story was somebody in particular. The sailors called him Old Moonback. Nobody knew what the other whales called him, because whales say their names very slowly over several evenings, and no sailor had ever managed to stay awake for all of it. But Old Moonback, he was on every ship in that ocean, and had been for longer than anyone could properly say. Grandfathers had heard about him from their grandfathers, who had claimed, in that comfortable way grandfathers have, that he was already old when they were boys, and already enormous, and already very, very sleepy. He was the largest whale on the whole ocean. I could tell you how large in feet and in tons, but numbers are wide-awake things, and we are not going to bother with them tonight. I will only say that when Old Moonback rose to the surface, it was less like an animal coming up, and more like a gentle island arriving, an island that breathed, and that when the moonlight settled on his great wet back, which it always did the moment he surfaced, the way a cat settles instantly on the one newspaper you were reading, his back shone silver from one end to the other. That is how he got the name. On bright nights he looked like a long piece of the moon that had come loose and learned to swim. He was old, and he was vast, and he was kind, and he was, and I want to be quite accurate about this, the sleepiest creature the sea has ever produced. Everything about him was slow and heavy and soft. His great eyelids came down like evening. His voice, on the rare occasions he used it, was so low and so slow that a single hello took the better part of an hour, and by the end of it the fish who had asked how he was doing had usually nodded off against his side, which he never minded. Even his heartbeat was a sleepy thing. It bet the way a very patient person knocks on a door they are happy to wait outside of. Boom, and a long velvet pause, and boom again. Small fish liked to drift close to him at night, just to feel it. It was the best metronome for sleeping the ocean had. But here is the strange thing about Old Moonback, and it is the whole reason for this story, so I shall say it carefully. The sleepiest whale in the world had never once been entirely asleep. You see, whales sleep in a most peculiar way, and this part, I promise you, is perfectly true. A whale cannot switch itself off all at once the way you can. A whale must keep half of itself awake to remember to breathe and to keep one eye on the wide dark water. And so, whales sleep one half at a time. The left half of Old Moonback would sleep while the right half kept watch. And then, somewhere in the smallest hours, the two halves would change places, quietly, like sentries who are fond of each other, and the right half would sleep, while the left half watched the stars. It worked perfectly well. It had worked perfectly well for 200 years. But it did mean that Old Moonback had only ever dreamed half a dream at a time. He had hundreds of years of half-dreams. He had the first half of a dream about a warm, green bay, and no idea how it ended. He had the second half of a dream about singing with his mother, and no idea how it began. His dreams were like a library, in which every book was missing either its first pages or its last. And though he was too patient and too polite a whale ever to complain about it, there was, in the deepest part of him, down below the part that the fish could feel booming, one long, quiet wish. Just once, he would have liked to sleep all the way through. Both halves at once, both eyes closed, one whole dream, with a beginning and a middle and an end, the kind everyone else on the ocean got every single night and never even thought to be grateful for. That was all. That was the entire wish. He had never told anyone, because a whale's telling takes several evenings, and it seemed a lot of trouble for such a small thing. But the moon knew. The moon has been watching whales sleep in halves for a very long time, and she misses nothing that shines on water. Now, you might think that a creature who had never properly slept would be bitter about bedtime. It was exactly the other way around. Old Moonback loved sleep, the way people who live inland love the sea. He loved it as a beautiful country he had only ever seen half of, and somewhere in his 200 years he had found himself a piece of work to do, the gentlest work on all the ocean, and it was this. Old Moonback watched over sleeping ships. It had started long ago, more or less by accident, drifting one night. With his awake half, he had come upon a small fishing boat, far from home, rocking in a clumsy, worried sort of way. And Old Moonback had done the only thing he knew how to do, which was to rise quietly beside it, enormous and calm, and simply be there. His great body smoothed the water, the way a hand smooths a bedsheet. The clumsy rocking became a slow, deep, even rocking, the proper kind, the kind that boats and babies both understand. And the fishermen inside, who had been sleeping badly in their narrow bunks, all sighed at the same moment and rolled over and settled, without one of them waking, the way passengers in a coach all lean together when it turns a familiar corner. The whale had stayed beside that little boat until the sky went pale. Then he had sunk away, quiet as a thought, before anyone woke. And the fishermen never knew why they came home from that trip so rested and so unreasonably cheerful, and their wives never found out either, though several of them asked pointed questions. That was the first ship. There had been thousands since. He had watched over fishing smacks and mail packets, over tubby little colliers and tall ships with names like Perseverance out of Bristol. He had watched over a lighthouse keeper's rowing boat, which had seemed to him hardly bigger than a leaf, and once, for an entire winter crossing, over a great passenger ship full of emigrants, hundreds of people with everything they owned in bundles, sleeping their way toward a new country. Night after night, he had surfaced beside her enormous hull. Even beside her he was bigger, he was always bigger. And night after night, the seasick had stopped being seasick, and the homesick had dreamed kind dreams of the homes they were going to, instead of the homes they had left. He asked for nothing back. He was a whale. There was nothing a ship could give him. He simply liked the sound sleeping people make. If you have never heard it, it is a sound somewhere between a kettle, just before it sings, and a cat who has found the warm spot, and a ship full of it, creaking along under the stars, with every hammock swinging the same way, was, in Old Moonback's considered opinion, the loveliest sound on the ocean. And the sailors, for their part, told stories about him in every port on that sea. If you see a long silver back beside the ship at midnight, they said, don't you dare shout, and don't you dare point. Just get into your bunk and close your eyes, because nobody sleeps deeper than a man on a ship that Old Moonback has chosen. Captains who saw him wrote it in their logbooks in their best handwriting. Calm night. The whale was alongside. All hands slept like children. There was a captain called Captain Mothersoul, who swore that his crew went to bed at 7 in the evening for a week, on the mere rumour of him. And in the galley of every ship on that ocean, it was considered the worst kind of luck, worse than whistling, worse than spilling salt, to be loud after dark when the whale was near. Not because he would do anything about it, because it would be rude. So, that was Old Moonback, the night watchman of the sea, 200 years old, silver where the moon touched him, keeper of everyone's sleep but his own. And on the night I am telling you about, the night with the enormous, low, golden moon, he was making his slow way through the dark, with his left half awake and his right half dozing, listening across the miles of quiet water for anyone who might need him. And someone did. She was called the Marigold, and she was a small, elderly wooden ship of the crooked and comfortable kind. I want you to see her properly, because she deserves it. She had 2 masts, and her sails were furled for the night, tied up in neat brown bundles like fresh loaves. Her timbers had been tarred and mended, and tarred again for 50 years, until she had gone the deep brown-black colour of a violin, and nothing on her was quite straight any more. Her masts leaned just slightly, like 2 old friends telling secrets. Her deck rose and dipped in little hills where the planks had settled. In a harbour full of smart new ships, she looked like a favourite armchair that had wandered in among the furniture in a shop window, and every sailor who had ever served on her had loved her without being able to say exactly why. The Marigold was 17 days out from home, in the very widest, emptiest, deepest part of the ocean, carrying a cargo of the kind that makes a ship smell wonderful. Barrels of apples, and sacks of cinnamon and cloves, and boxes of good black tea. When the breeze moved along her deck, it picked up all 3, apples and spice and tea together. And if you are wondering what that smells like, it smells exactly like the inside of a grandmother's cupboard. And there are worse things for a ship to smell of, miles from anywhere, under the stars. Her crew was small, 11 souls and a cat, and by the time the moon had climbed to its highest, every single one of them was asleep. The captain was asleep in his cabin at the stern, sitting up in his bunk with his spectacles on his forehead and the day's chart still open on his knees, where it gently rose and fell as he breathed, the pencil still in his hand, as if, even in his sleep, he was keeping a dead reckoning of exactly where his dreams had got to. He was an old, round, gentle captain, very near the end of his last voyage, before retiring to a cottage he had never seen, but had been describing to the crew for years. And he slept the way old captains do, listening even while snoring, so that the ship was in his ears all night, like a wife's breathing. The cook was asleep in the galley, in a hammock slung between a beam and a cupboard, with his arms folded, and an expression of great professional seriousness, as though sleep were a soup that would curdle if he stopped concentrating. Above him, his pots and pans hung from their hooks in order of size, swaying all together with the ship, tinging very softly now and then, no louder than a spoon set down on a saucer. He had left the galley fire banked low in its iron stove, a small red heart of embers behind its little door, and the warmth of it crept along the deck beams to where the watch below lay sleeping, which is why, on the Marigold, the men nearest the galley were said to have the finest berths on the ship, and bequeathed them in their wills. The crew slept forward, in hammocks hung close together, 7 men swinging gently in a row, like 7 notes of the same tune. One of them snored on the in-breath. His neighbour, by long accommodation, snored on the out-breath. They had sailed together so many years that they had become, between them, one complete and rather restful sound, and younger sailors had been known to have trouble sleeping ashore for the lack of it. And in the smallest hammock, right forward, where the bow made its endless, soft shush against the water, slept the ship's boy, who was 11, on his first proper voyage, with his boots set side by side beneath him, toes pointing home, and in his hand, still, though he had been asleep for an hour, a letter from his mother, which he had now read so many times that the creases had gone soft as cloth. It said the things that mother's letters say: be warm, be good, mind the cook, we are all very proud. He knew it entirely by heart. He held it anyway. At sea, 11 is very young, and the night is very large, and a letter in the hand is an anchor of its own kind. The only member of the crew awake was the helmsman, and I will let you in on the Marigold's oldest secret. On flat, calm nights, in the open ocean, with the wheel lashed and the sails asleep, and 1,000 miles of nothing on every side, the helmsman's watch was not always, strictly speaking, watched. He was a long, bony, comfortable man, and he had settled himself down on a coil of rope beside the wheel with his pipe, unlit, out of respect for the hour, and his chin had found his chest, and every few minutes he raised one eyelid halfway, took a long look at the moon to make sure it was still there, and lowered it again, satisfied. Now, this is not good seamanship. I am obliged to say so. But it is very good sleeping, and no harm ever came of it on the nights that mattered, for a reason the helmsman himself never knew. The reason was on its way. Down in the hold, among the apple barrels, the ship's cat, a small ginger person by the name of Biscuit, opened her eyes. Cats always know first. She flowed up the companionway like something poured out of a jug, crossed the moonlit deck without a sound, leapt to the rail, and sat very tall and very still, looking out at the silver water, her tail curled around her feet, her ears made 2 small crooked shadows on the planking. And out of the dark, very slowly, very quietly, something enormous and gentle and silver rose to the surface beside the little ship and breathed. If you had been standing on the deck of the Marigold that night, this is what you would have seen. First, the water alongside went strange and smooth, the ripples flattening out as though someone had drawn a warm iron over them. Then a paleness came up through the deep, wide as a meadow, growing paler and wider until the surface bulged and parted and shed itself in silver sheets off the back of the rising whale. And there he was, Old Moonback himself, alongside them, so close and so vast that he blotted out the horizon on that side and replaced it with himself. A long, shining hill of a creature, glistening from one end to the other with the light of the enormous golden moon. His breath went up into the night like a fountain of silver dust, and hung there, and drifted slowly away across the stars, and the sound of his breathing, that great, warm, unhurried sigh, the biggest sigh on the ocean, rolled over the little ship from bow to stern, and every sleeping soul aboard heard it somewhere underneath their dreams, and every one of them, all 11, sighed too, at the same moment, without waking, and settled deeper into their hammocks and their bunks. In his cabin, the captain's pencil slipped from his fingers and landed on the chart, making a small mark in the middle of the empty ocean, as if to say, "Here, it happened here." Biscuit the cat looked at the whale's eye. The whale's eye, the right one, the awake one, an eye the size of a dinner plate, deep and dark and fringed with soft creases, like a very old man's, looked at Biscuit. Nothing was said. Everything was understood. Cats and whales have this in common. They consider most conversation unnecessary, and all introductions vulgar. Biscuit blinked once, slowly, which among cats is a great courtesy, and the whale lowered his eyelid once, slowly, in return, and the treaty was complete. You keep your small watch, I shall keep my large one, and between us, this ship will be the best guarded bed on the whole dark sea. Biscuit yawned, stepped down from the rail, curled himself on the warm planking above the galley stove, and went to sleep with one ear still up. And Old Moonback arranged himself alongside the Marigold for the night. He did this with enormous care. A whale of his size cannot simply flop down next to a small, elderly wooden ship. It would be like an elephant getting into bed with a teacup. He came close, but not too close, half a whale's width off her side, and matched himself to her drift so exactly that the sea between them went as smooth as the water in a saucer. His stillness spread outward from him, like warmth from a stove. The waves that came toward the Marigold from the ocean met the whale first and walked over him, and arrived on the other side, too sleepy to bother anyone. And the little ship's rocking slowed and deepened and settled into the good kind, the kind that is not going anywhere, the kind a cradle knows. Her old timbers felt the difference at once. All ships creak at night, but there are two kinds of creaking. The fretful kind, when a ship is working and worrying at her seams, and the settling kind, which is the sound of wood being allowed to rest. One by one, beam by beam, the Marigold's creaks changed from the first kind to the second, until the whole ship was making the sound of a large old dog turning 3 times in its basket and lying down at last with its chin on its paws. The moon came lower to see better. I told you it was that sort of moon. And there they floated, the two of them, side by side, in the middle of the widest, emptiest, deepest part of the ocean, the smallest, crookedest, sweetest smelling ship on the sea, with her one amber lantern glowing at the stern, and one small porthole glowing gold down near the waterline, where the galley embers kept their warmth all night. And beside her, dwarfing her, guarding her, the great silver whale, with the moonlight lying along his back like a path you could walk on, all the way out to the edge of the night. From very far above, from where the stars were, they would have looked like a mother and child, asleep in the same enormous blue bed. Now it was deep, middle of the night, the hour with no name, and Old Moonback lay beside the Marigold and did what he always did. He listened. This was the part of his work he loved best of all. Every sleeping ship makes its own music, and after 200 years, he knew them all. The way you know the breathing of everyone who lives in your house. And the Marigold, he decided, very early on that night, was the loveliest sounding ship he had ever kept watch over. She was so old, so wooden, and so thoroughly loved that she had stopped being a thing and become a creature, and she slept like one. He listened to her rigging, which hummed one long soft note whenever the night air moved, a note too low for waking ears, that went wandering up the masts and along every rope and down again, like a mother humming with her mouth closed in a dark hallway. He listened to her hull, the gentle glug and shush of water along 50-year-old planking, which is the sound a ship makes when she is telling the sea about her day, and to the sea answering underneath her, patient as ever. There, there, there. He listened to the pots and pans above the cook, swinging all together, ting and long silence, and ting, no louder than a music box heard from another room. He listened to the 7 hammocks swinging, 7 slow pendulums, all keeping the same time. The 2 old sailors, snoring their shared snore, in and out, question and answer, the most companionable sound in the world. He listened to the captain's chart, rising and falling on the captain's round stomach, paper breathing on top of breathing. He listened to the ship's boy murmur once in his sleep from the very front of the ship. Not a frightened murmur, the other kind. The whale had heard 10,000 sleepers and knew every dialect of dreaming. And this was a boy dreaming of home, with his mother's letter in his hand, a small, warm mutter, like a bird shifting on its perch. And then the long, easy breathing again, in time. Though the boy would never know it, with the swing of the pots and the snore of the old sailors and the hum of the rigging and the slow silver breathing of the whale alongside. Because by this hour of the night, the whole ship had fallen into one single rhythm, as sleeping households do. And the whale had fallen into it too, and it was the rhythm of the sea itself, which is the rhythm everyone on earth slept to before they were born. The moonlight lay on the water. The lantern glowed at the stern. The little porthole glowed gold above the waterline. And something began to happen to Old Moonback that had not happened in 200 years. Both of his halves grew sleepy at the same time. It was the ship that did it. He was quite sure of that afterwards, insofar as he was ever sure of anything again that night. 200 years of watching, and no ship had ever sounded like this one. The music of her was so complete, so soft, so finished, that his awake half, his dutiful, careful, watching half. The half that had kept its eye open through 2 centuries of nights began very slowly to forget what it was supposed to be doing. The watching half listened to the hammocks. The watching half listened to the rigging. The watching half heard the sea saying, "There, there, there," underneath the old brown hull, and thought, in the slow, deep way that whales think, "There, there, there," and his great right eye, the awake one, the one the size of a dinner plate, began, just barely, to close. Halfway down, it stopped. 200 years of habit stopped it. "Someone must watch," said the habit. It was an old habit, and it meant well. Someone always watches. The sea is wide, the night is long, ships are small. Someone must keep the watch, and the someone is you, old whale. It has always been with you. And it was, at exactly that moment, on the smooth black water between the whale and the ship, that the moon laid down her light like a hand on a blanket, and took the watch herself. I cannot tell you how a moon says things, because she doesn't. The moon has never said a single word in all her nights, and she is not going to begin for us. But anyone who has ever been outside late, truly late, in the hour with no name, knows that the moon can mean things in the way that light means things. And lying there with his eye half closed, the old whale understood her as plainly as if it had been whale song. "I see you," meant the moon. That was the first thing. It is the first thing everyone wants to know. And the moon always says it first. I see you, old friend. I have been seeing you for 200 years. The whale lay still. The light lay on him. I saw you when you were small, meant the moon, moving gently on the water. There has never been a night you were not under my eye or my memory. I have watched you watch them all. The fishing boats, the mail packets, the great ships full of sleepers with their bundles. You have kept 10,000 watches, and in 10,000 nights you have never asked anyone for anything. The silver path of her light ran from the whale's back to the edge of the world and rocked there, slow and bright. But I know the wish meant the moon. I have always known it. I watch all the halves of all your dreams, and I have been keeping them for you. Every one. And they are safe. And tonight, old whale, this once, the watch is mine. I am at my fullest and my lowest, and my kindest, and I have nothing else to do tonight in all the world. The sea is flat, from here to everywhere. The little ship is sound. The cat sleeps with one ear up. Nothing is coming. Nothing is needed. Nothing is wanted. Anywhere, by anyone, except one thing, which is many years overdue. The light came up the whale's silver back and rested on his great, tired, half-closed eye, as soft as an eyelid itself. Close it, meant the moon. Both halves, old friend. All of you. All at once. I of the watch. And the sea, who had been listening underneath everything, the way she always does, rose along the whale's vast side in one slow, warm swell, and held him, held all of him, every ton and every year of him, the way she holds everything that trusts her, and said the only thing she has ever said, which suddenly sounded quite different, because for the first time in 200 years, it was being said to him. There, there, there. And the great right eye of Old Moonback, the awake eye, the watchkeeper's eye, the eye that had seen 10,000 ships safely into morning, went slowly, slowly, great